Welcome, welcome, welcome to Sound Up, your direct connection to all things music. And today is show 2 for this week. And as always, with our second show of the week, it's our Sound Up, Sound Off, where we turn the mic over to you, your weekly chance to weigh in on the biggest news in music. I'm Mark Goodman.
And I'm Alan Light. Now, if you're already a fan, you know the drill. But if you're new, here's how it goes.
Both shows each week feature up-to-the-minute news, special guests, and whatever we know that you need to know about the world of music.
But on our second show, it's the Sound Up, Sound Off, where we welcome you to join the show, whether as part of our virtual audience or through voice messages and emails. You can find out how to be a part of it at sounduppod.com.
Let's do this. If you are ready to sound off, let's go.
This is Sound Up with Mark Goodman and Alan Light, the only music podcast that matters.
Welcome to Sound Up, Sound Off. I'm Mark Goodman.
And I'm Alan Light.
We are discussing the nominees today for the 2024 class of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame with you. We want to hear your picks and get your take on this year's nominees. And of course, we will give you ours. We've got some great audio messages, emails, social posts to go through. And of course, big welcome to our live virtual audience here right now with us. So the show is going to be packed. Strap in.
And we're going to be talking about the return of Beyonce with her country-inspired project. We've got the perfect guy to help us break down her surprise dive into the world of country music and what problems, what issues, what questions that presents for country radio and how it may affect the genre in general. Our friend, chart expert Chris Molanphy, host of the Hit Parade podcast and author of a new book about Old Town Road, which faced a lot of these same questions. He's going to join us in just a moment. And then later in the show, we will be talking about this year's class of Rock Hall nominees and want to hear your thoughts and a chance to give some of our thoughts.
And we got to say, by the way, while we're talking Rock Hall, Rock and Roll Hall of Famers Pearl Jam made a big announcement. A new album's going to drop and a world tour just announced. Monday, we're going to bring in Rolling Stone writer Andy Green. He's going to join us to talk about that. And I just wanted to take a second, if I could, guys, to talk about a two-time Rock and Roll Hall of Famer, Stevie Nicks, who I just saw last night in concert. And it was a phenomenal concert. I was on my feet a lot of the time, much to the chagrin of the people behind me. But Stevie is, and she wasn't shy about it, 75 years old. She mentioned it a couple of times during the show. I'm 75. She sounds great. Perfect form. Her voice is still there. Her catalog, we all know, is really deep. She's got a lot of great songs. But she did a couple of covers. I mean, I think one of the things I came away with was she really misses Tom Petty.
There's a lot of Tom Petty in this show, isn't there? I saw it in the fall when she played the Garden. Yeah.
Yeah. She starts off the show with with Running Down a Dream, that Tom Petty. She plays his version of that before she walks out on stage. She does, of course, Stop Dragging My Heart Around. And she does this whole sort of section about Tom with lots of pics in the background. I really feel how much she misses that guy. She went on a long story about how she wound up getting Stop Dragging My Heart Around. And that was the other thing about her last night. A lot of stories, a lot of explaining, like, back when I wasn't rich, here was what I was into. And the covers I thought were interesting. One of the most interesting to me was she did the old Buffalo Springfield tune. She actually credited Stephen Stills and talked about hearing it in Phoenix as a kid and talking with Stephen later on in her career when they finally met about what the song was about. She sort of described the LA riots and so on, where that song really came from. But the feel of the song, especially last night after what happened in Kansas City, really, really stuck with me. There's something happening here. What it is ain't exactly clear. She used that song and the intro to that song to admit that she never voted until she was 70. She always had an excuse. I have to get my hair done. I have to get my nails, and I'm on tour. I this and that. And she stopped and said, no, that's wrong. The most important thing is go and vote. It was a really important thing for her. And I was moved by her taking a moment to do that, just to do, kind of what T Swift did. Just go out and vote, get registered and vote. It's really, really important. So all in all, I just was really moved by the show. I was happy to see that she feels good on stage. She's not, twirling around the way that she used to. She waves the lace instead of twirling it all around her. But there wasn't a moment the entire room was not entranced. We were all really into it. And I mean, she deserves being in the Rock Hall twice. She's that kind of star.
I honestly thought, I saw this show a couple of months ago, and I thought she sounded, I think the last time I saw her was at the Beacon Theater.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And this was now at the Garden. I mean, this was,
Yeah.
is it a solo show going to work at this? I thought she sounded better than what I remember. I thought her presence was stronger. Like, it just feels like she's leveled up even from where the Stevie solo shows were, 10 years ago or whatever that was.
And she did Leather and Lace, which is only the second night in this tour that she has done it. And for that, she brought out her vocal coach. She gave him a huge shout out and said, I've been working with this guy since 1999. And because of him, I've never had a bad show. She said, I introduced him to Harry Styles. Mm-hmm. So Harry Styles is using him. And she brought him out on stage to do Leather and Lace with her, which was another great moment. It was really something. Really
excellent.
Fun.
All right.
So I wanted to drop that in. And thanks to everybody who responded on my socials as I was being mesmerized with Stevie last night. I really appreciate you checking in. So what else we got?
Well, what is getting a lot of attention and a lot of questions these last few days is Beyonce's surprise drop of new music. Got the announcement in the Super Bowl Verizon ad, and then 2 new songs, Texas Hold'em and 16 Carriages. Out of the country community, whatever it is that means. There's a lot of confusion around the response, the reaction from country radio, and how all of this is going to work on the charts. And to help us make sense of all of this and what it all means and how it all might work out is our friend, chart expert, host of the Hit Parade podcast, author of the new book, Old Town Road. Please welcome Chris Molanphy to the building.
Woo, Chris.
Thank you for that wonderful introduction, gentlemen.
Who better to talk about Beyonce's dive into country than the guy who wrote the book on Old Town Road, which blew country's mind just a couple of years ago.
Right? It's kind of like part 2, right?
We can start from that, which was, walk us back through, as you researched and told this story, how this played out in the case of Old Town Road and how that may or may not be the same as it plays out for this Beyonce material.
Yeah, it is kind of uncanny. And it was at this time of year, maybe a month later, just 5 years ago in 2019. I know it seems like yesterday, but it was
seems
actually
like yesterday. Damn.
It was 5 years ago, right about now. So Old Town Road, which was first recorded and released at the very end of 2018, started to blow up on social and amassed enough data to start appearing on Billboard's charts in early 2019. Now, for just 1 week in March of 2019, among the charts that Old Town Road appeared on, it appeared on the pop chart, it appeared on the R&B hip hop chart, and it appeared for that 1 week on the country chart. And then Nashville took one look at that. And I'm using Nashville as this loose entity here.
Yeah.
And to this day, I wrote a whole darn book about this, and nobody can identify this person came in and dropped the hammer. There's no one identified person who said, no. But let's call it the Nashville Industrial Complex got in touch with Billboard and said, that ain't country. And 1 week later, Billboard pulled the song from Hot Country Songs. It went from number 19 on the Hot Country Songs chart to off the chart. And by the way, and I'm not saying this because I'm a soothsayer or I have a crystal ball, but because I understand how these charts work. If Billboard had not pulled it from the Hot Country Songs chart, the following week it would have leapt to number 3 on Hot Country Songs. And the week after that, it would have knocked out a Luke Combs song and gone all the way to number 1. And it would have stayed at number 1 on Hot Country Songs for about 4 or 5 months. No exaggeration.
Which is kind of what it did on the pop chart.
Yes, it then went on, and this is a big reason why I wrote this book. Old Town Road, to this day, 5 years later, still holds the record for most weeks at number 1 in Hot 100 history, the Hot 100 being the big pop chart. It spent 19 weeks at number 1, overwhelmingly due to streaming data, although it was a big radio record. It went to number 2 at radio. It sold quite a lot of downloads, but overwhelmingly all the social sharing, all of the consumption on YouTube, all the consumption on Spotify, made it this blockbuster of a record and the number 1 song of 2019.
Before we get into the Beyonce specifics, and not to get too deep in the weeds, but knowing this is really the issue.
Right.
How is it determined what tops the country charts. As you said, if Old Town Road had maintained that designation, it would have been number one, not because it was getting played on country radio,
right,
but for other reasons.
That's a key distinction. All right, first of all, the question is, why did Billboard pull it? At the time, Billboard issued a statement saying, after further consideration, this song does not, the exact quote was, does not contain enough elements of today's country music to qualify. And for those of you who are alive and remember this 5 years ago, this led to a firestorm in the mainstream media, headlines saying, what the hell is a country song? Why is this song by a young man in a cowboy hat with a Southern drawl, with a banjo sample?
A gay black man. That was the thing.
He was not out as gay yet, by the way. That one of the fascinating footnotes.
I would have never guessed.
Right, but he did not come out of the closet until the last day of June 2019. Nonetheless,
isn't it the same in country music as it is in rock and in pop? It's ruled by consultants. There's conglomerates of radio stations.
Right.
Isn't that kind of where the hammer gets dropped from?
But also, does that not matter?
Here's the real issue, and this is a big thing that I go into detail on in the book. And by the way, this will bring us up to the Beyonce controversy today. Billboard revised its genre charts, its R&B hip hop chart, its country chart, its Latin chart back in 2012. And they basically turned those charts into mini Hot 100s. They did this because basically the old system, which was based on the analog, reality of record stores, you used to have black record stores and stores that specialized in country music. That all went the way of the dodo back in the aughts when pretty much all music retail, except for a handful of stores, closed. So they didn't have that data anymore to rely on. They still have radio data, but basically Billboard decided to heck with it. We're just going to make all of these genre charts mini Hot 100s. I am not a big fan of this methodology. And I argue in the book that basically this change in methodology led to the Lil Nas X controversy, because Billboard then has to make a determination. It's like Billboard is acting as the ultimate arbiter. And they are not basing this decision based on their whim. They are talking to radio consultants and program directors. They are talking to the industry, but basically they're determining on a song-by-song basis, this is an R&B song, this is not an R&B song, this is a country song, this is not a country song. And Billboard had a terrible choice to make. Part of me is sympathetic to them because basically it was an all or nothing prospect. And this is what you have to keep in mind with the Beyonce question this week, is it's all or nothing. If Billboard includes Lil Nas X's Old Town Road, within 3 weeks, it's the number one country song in America, which is in a way kind of dubious because the fact is it was not that popular with the country audience. So calling it the number one country song in America because it was based on Hot 100 data would have been a little dubious. So instead, Billboard took the other choice, which was we'll just pull it from the chart entirely, which looked horribly racist. And it was a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation.
So again, just to be clear on this, and this is then to get us to the Beyonce thing. If Billboard says the Beyonce song is a country song,
right,
whether or not country radio plays the song doesn't matter. If it's
correct,
the biggest hit that's called a country song, even if that's all on the pop side or pop and R&B side, then that becomes the biggest country song by default. So it doesn't have to do with what the genre airplay looks like. It just has to do with what the thing is getting labeled. So
exactly.
Given that, 5 years later, where do you think we are? What happens with this?
Is it going to happen again?
Are they so backed into a corner on this that they are going to have no choice but to add, to include this as a country song, or the world will go bananas?
The world will go bananas. Given that back in 2019, Billboard thought, this is a first-time single by a new artist, we'll just pull it from the country chart, problem solved. And they got into a horrible firestorm and were attacked on all sides by the mainstream media. They are not going to be foolish enough, my prediction, and this is based on sources I've talked to, but mostly speculation, frankly. My prediction is they are not going to be fool enough to say this song by Beyonce does not qualify for the country chart in the year of our Lord 2024. That would be the worst of the two choices that they had to make, the Sophie's choice they had to make in 2019. But yes, to Alan's point, what now happens is because the Hot Country Songs chart is really just a mini Hot 100, if it's the number one song on the Hot 100, or even if it's the number 5 song on the Hot 100 next week, if it's the highest record on the Hot 100 that Billboard has designated qualifies for the country songs chart, it will slam into the Hot Country Songs chart at number 1. To give you an analogy, a couple years ago when Taylor Swift started her Taylor's version re-recordings, and she was going back to some albums that were designated as country albums like Fearless, when she dropped the first single, Love Story, from Fearless, Taylor's version, because it was considered a country song. And Taylor has long ago left behind country music. But for Billboard purposes, Love Story, Taylor's version, is a country song. Predictably, it slammed in at number 1 on the Hot Country Songs chart based on all that Hot 100 data. Was country radio playing the bejesus out of Love Story, Taylor's version? No, they were not. But that data on the Hot 100 was enough to give Taylor a week at number 1 with the Taylor's version of Love Story in 2021, which is kind of a mind trip. So, yeah.
Well, let me ask you this, because as Alan said, and as you said, we're 5 years down the line from that firestorm.
Right.
Right. And we also are talking about arguably one of the 2 biggest artists in the world. And there's already been, I only know one, I think there is more. There's that one station in Oklahoma, a country station in Oklahoma, that played it last week. And they got a pretty good response on it from what I have read. And do you think at this point, based on what, so if it's on a chart, on a country chart, and because we've lived through Lil Nas X and all of that, is Beyonce going to go the way of Mickey Guyton and umpteen other Black women artists in country? Great stars, great talents who just somehow didn't make it? Or does Beyonce break through with the power of the Bayhive? Is she in there? What does country music say?
Talk about that Oklahoma station and
yeah.
What is that a harbinger of how this plays out?
They were a family station, as I understand. They were family owned.
Actually, what they specifically are is they're affiliated with a Native American tribe in Oklahoma. And this guy really stepped in it. And I kind of feel a little for him. Like, you don't want the Beehive angry at you. And he basically very innocently, when a local listener wrote in saying, I'd like you to play Texas Hold'em by Beyonce, he just very matter-of-factly said, we do not play Beyonce on KYKC as we are a country music station, almost like a statement of fact, like, oh, Beyonce is not part of our format, ergo we don't play her. And this led to an utter firestorm. And by the way, KYKC has since relented. They've been serviced the single, which is what you have to do typically to get a song played on country radio. A record label has to service it to you and say, hey, we're going for ads on this song. And KYKC since then has actually played it several times. And a few stations have played it several times. But the question you're really asking, Mark, is this going to catch fire and take a hold of the country audience? That's harder to predict. On the one hand, you can picture the country audience, which is, used to having a chip on their shoulder and their back up saying, you're not going to tell us what we like and what we don't like. Mm-hmm. On the other hand, charts are feedback loops. When something appears on a chart, it tends to get more attention. It tends to make people say, maybe I should listen to this Beyonce record. And hell, it's a good record. I've listened to it and it sounds quite a lot like a country record to me. Maybe they'll like it organically, and then it really will catch on. I mean, the chart to watch in the weeks to come is, in a way, not the flagship Hot Country Songs chart, where there's a very good chance Beyonce is just going to slam in at number 1 based on Hot 100 data. Watch about a month from now to see if it's actually starting to climb on country airplay, which is a separate Billboard chart that isolates radio. Mm-hmm. Is it catching on there? That's harder to predict. And Beyonce has 2 strikes against her. She's Black and she's a woman. Women notoriously have had a very hard time on country radio for the last decade and a half. So it's anybody's guess.
How much of the cards does Columbia Records hold in this situation? Because it also seems to me like there's a decision to make of, we're going to go guns blazing.
She's not promoting at country. That's a statement right there.
Right. They need to, will they service it to country stations? Will they take out the ads in country trade publications? They could decide, we want to make this happen, to make history, or they could say, leave it alone. Let's see what the market does. Mm-hmm. And as you said, if the charts force their hand, then, we'll see what it is. If you're the label right now, how do you envision playing this out?
you're both right in a sense. Mark's right in the sense that at first when they put it out, they said, we're not promoting this country. And Alan's right that in a sense, the label has to decide that they want to go all in, especially in country music. Country music is the format that is most driven by radio, more than R&B, hip hop, more than pop, more than any format. And radio stations need to know, okay, are you guys all in on this? Are you pushing your chips into the middle of the table? And what that means in effect is committing the resources, committing the money, radio promoters, promoting it within the Nashville system. You know, if you visit Nashville sometime in the next month and you see billboards on the lawns of Music Row saying, you know, Texas Hold'em, you know, going for ads at country radio, you'll know that they are actually putting some chips on the table. I think they're probably judging this first week or two to figure out, okay, does this have any pull, or would we be just throwing money? You know, she's Beyonce, obviously for Columbia Records, Beyonce is a priority. So in a sense, even if they waste $100,000 or $200,000 on this, you know, it's a rounding error, but they do have to decide,
and it's a
should we go all in? And it's a statement. Exactly. If I were Columbia, frankly, I'd probably throw the money at it just to say we tried and see what happens, you know, because that's the only way you're going to find out.
But don't you think, especially the nature of labels these days, is they're too afraid. They're going to wait. Well, let's see what happens. You know, they're going to wait before they commit, because arguably this is different than any other. This is different than Mickey Guyton.
It is.
This is different than Old Town Road. This is a whole other thing. And I like the fact that they are not. It's not like, oh man, Beyonce's trying to go country. She's not promoting a country radio. She just did a song that sounded like country. Whatever happens, happens.
I'd like to believe that, but I feel that in country music in particular, if you really want a country hit, you got to go for it and you got to put your chips on the table and promote it to radio. And
you're right in saying that the audience of country music is specific. They're rabid. They're really excited and they're really in
right
on their hometown stations. It's going to be fascinating.
Right now, the number one song on Hot Country Songs in Billboard, because of heavy streaming numbers, is this song that's months old by Zach Bryan and Casey Musgraves called I Remember Everything. And it's only a moderate hit. And this is, you know, not even a black woman. This is a white dude. But Zach Bryan is kind of an iconoclast and he doesn't necessarily play the Nashville game. And I Remember Everything, despite being technically number one on the Hot 100, or excuse me, not on the Hot 100, on Hot Country Songs because of Hot 100 data, it's getting some looks at country radio, but it's not a number one country airplay record. So the country audience is very picky about what they will adopt. You can't tell them what to like.
Chris, so glad that we had you on to help us figure this thing out. Chris
I'm not
Molanphy.
sure we've figured it out, but we can guess.
It's going to be a fun few weeks to watch.
Right. The next month is going to be really, really interesting to see what happens. Before we let you go, you want to tell us where can people find you?
Absolutely. Of course, Alan mentioned my podcast Hit Parade. This month's episode of talking about a completely different vocal diva is about Barbra Streisand, if that interests you. She put out a recent memoir and we had some fun talking about her. I write the Why Is This Song Number One series for Slate, and you can find my stuff at Slate Magazine.
And the Old Town Road book on shelves now.
Oh, lest I forget, please, yes. If this topic interests you, Old Town Road is all about country music, genre, race, all of these issues we're talking about. Old Town Road is available at bookstores now. Yes, thank you, Alex.
Thank you, Chris Molanphy.
All right, in just a second, we're going to take a break, and then when we come back, it is your turn to sound off. We've got a bunch of emails, a bunch of voice messages, and a whole live audience waiting right here to mix it up with us. I think largely about the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame nominations. We'll find out what you want to talk about live right here on Sound Up.
It's your turn to sound up, right here on Sound Up with Mark Goodman and Alan Light.
Welcome back to Sound Up. We've got our live studio audience. They are here with us right now in real time. We've got a ton of emails. We thank you for those, social posts, and audio messages on Rock Hall, Super Bowl, and quite a bit more. Before we go full on into the Rock Hall emails and stuff, we want to run down the nominees one more time just to make sure that we're all up to speed on who is nominated and going forward. All right, Alan?
The list begins with Mary J. Blige.
And Mariah Carey.
Cher.
Dave Matthews Band,
Eric B. and Rakim,
Foreigner,
Peter Frampton,
Jane's Addiction,
Kool and the Gang,
Lenny Kravitz,
Oasis,
Sinead O'Connor,
Ozzy Osbourne,
Sade,
and A Tribe Called Quest.
Sweet. Remember to vote for your favorites at vote.rockhall.com. You can vote every single day, or go to sounduppod.com, where we have a link to the voting.
That is right. And our website also has audio and video clips from our last episode, which featured us talking to nominees Peter Frampton and Lou Gramm from Foreigner, as well as the Rock Hall's Greg Harris and much more. So check it out. Check it often, sounduppod.com.
Sweet. So this is Sound Off. So let's get to letting them sound off.
First comment comes from Kate. An email from Kate saying, as a proud Atlantan, ATLian, yep, that's how it works. I think Usher made sure his Super Bowl appearance was not just about him and his music, but to make up for the 2019 Atlanta performance that should have celebrated Atlanta talent. He had to have an HBCU marching band. He had the Kappas join him on stage, did the A-Town Stomp and Rockaway, and even nodded to Magic City, where so many hip-hop albums debut, to build buzz. Yes, there were some sound problems and a slow start, but it was the celebration that the 2019 Super Bowl in Atlanta deserved and was denied in a tougher political climate with the NFL and race at the time. And with headliners Maroon 5, right? Was that.
Right.
So that was Kate from the ATL with an email.
I love that. That's pretty interesting, actually. Because I was wondering about all the tubas. Okay, so there's an explanation.
Yeah.
We also got some reaction to the Rock Hall and to Pearl Jam. They have just announced a big tour and a big album drop. We got some reaction from Tim in Cleveland, our pal Tim.
It's 17 Candles, Kendall in Cleveland. Talking about Rock Hall, I am excited for Foreigner. I am super excited and actually have an emotional attachment to Jane's Addiction. And who else did I pick? Sade. Love Sade. Have all their stuff pretty much. And Frampton. I hope he gets in. And I'm theoretically saying he'll probably get in just like Joan Jett got in with that whole Top of Mind thing when they come and perform. Or say Trent Reznor does the Cure induction and then he gets in. Joan Jett plays with Nirvana. She gets in. Peter Frampton plays with Sheryl Crow. Maybe. We will see. And I am super sort of excited for Pearl Jam as much as I can be, even though all their post-2000 stuff really doesn't excite me. But release day always gets me excited because we got the Andrew Watt produced album coming out, and the first single is the title track, Dark Matter, and I played it like 10 times yesterday, and it's a good tune, man. Matt Cameron's drums specifically, and the fading last guitar solo towards the end by Mike McCready. Apparently there's going to be a lot of Mike soloing on this thing.
Yeah, they were saying a big rock record.
Yeah, and Mike was saying a whole lot of guitar. That seems to be what they've been saying. So we'll get into that on Monday. We've got Andy Green from Rolling Stone to catch us up with all the Pearl Jam news. And a fine point from Tim that it is true that sometimes these artists make appearances at the induction ceremonies and kind of refreshes or gets them some momentum going in next time. He's not wrong. There are certainly examples of that, and
it's not a tit for tat thing.
There's no deal is cut, but I think it is one of those. I mean, as we've said for a lot of these, you see them out there, and it just when it was Lionel Richie doing the Clarence Avant induction when he did the speech, just sometimes they do get out there and people respond like, "Wow, that guy feels like a Hall of Famer to me." I think it's it does sometimes translate that way. So point well taken. Want me to read another one before we get into the audience here? We can do that. Our friend Rachel says, as for the Super Bowl game, a great game, definitely a nail biter. Regarding the commercials, they're no longer a draw for me. Long gone are the days of the commercials that make an impact. What's up?
Became part of the culture.
That was an impact. I liked Usher. Agree there was way too much going on to be able to enjoy it visually, and the songs were too short. I'm very excited for the nominees. Feel that most of them are worthy contenders. My 5 picks: Mary J., Peter Frampton, especially after reading his book as part of the Volumaniacs book club.
Wow, what a great book. I wonder who co-wrote that with him.
I don't know. Wonder why they came out so well. Kool and the Gang, Tribe Called Quest, and Foreigner. I do feel Cher is a shoo-in. What other artist has a hit in each of the last 7 decades? Cher should go in for her own accolades and doesn't need the legacy of Sonny for that. Regardless of who gets in, it will be a fun time for many of us already planning for the ceremony in Cleveland this fall. Best from Rachel.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting one. Cher, another artist who gets nominated who doesn't want to show up and is telling Rock Hall to fuck off. I mean,
be true to yourself. That's what gets you there.
We knew there wasn't going to be a Sonny and Cher reunion anyway, so,
We got some folks lined up. We're looking to talk.
All right.
Sean in Kansas City has been waiting, so let's hear from our friend Sean.
Sean, before you even get started, were you there yesterday?
No, actually, I at the last minute, I decided not to go to the there's 2 parts. There's the parade and the rally.
Yeah, right.
My neighbors went to both. They were shuttled away at the last, after the thing went off. But no, I decided not to go at the last minute.
How's it feel in the city today?
Anger.
Yeah, anger.
A lot of anger. A lot of this isn't who we are, and we don't want the national media to think that this is what the Kansas City representation is.
Yeah. We could probably assure Kansas City that, no, it's who America is.
Right.
Yeah.
It's not who we are.
And they did just come out and they did figure out it was 2 groups of teens that had a disagreement. It wasn't terrorism,
right,
and it wasn't political. It was
kids with guns.
That was the anticipation, was it was just some beef that happened to play out there, and yet still the same questions stand. So
anyway, I had to ask about that.
Yes.
And I figured I was going to offer that if you needed some local color. So
what's on your mind?
Well, with the Rock Hall, a couple of things. One, a group of us happened to be together on Saturday morning on a different platform, and I had the privilege to announce it live to all the some of the old Volumaniacs. So I felt like I did you and Alan proud.
Nice work.
And that was fun. With my thoughts, who should get in versus who will get in versus who I want in. Well, obviously I have this in my background.
He's flying the Foreigner 4 album in his window there.
So my 5 I'd like to see in are Foreigner, Frampton, Eric B. and Rakim, Sade, and Ozzy.
That's a mixed list.
Yeah.
Well, I think Foreigner is insanely. I mean, Alan, you're in the room. I'm not going to ask you to get into the depths, but I really feel if you look at Foreigner's body of work, a 5-time platinum debut, a 7X platinum, a 5. I mean, the platinum albums that they stacked up in a row is insane. Whether or not you label them corporate or whether or not you like Mick Jones or not doesn't matter. It's the body of work cannot be denied.
Mm-hmm. Lou Gramm, one of the greatest voices in rock and roll, for God's sake.
Absolutely. And it was a great call you guys had with him on Monday. And Eric B. Rakim, to me, I mean, I'm old school hip hop, and I just think, Rakim is the best rapper ever. And the way that he created flow and the way that he took words together, I think Eminem took it to another level because of the way that Rakim didn't have to rhyme them exactly. The way that he flowed them, it laid a lot of the groundwork.
Rakim changed the game.
He changed the game. And I think Sade invented new soul. And everything that came after her, like, Jazzy B and Soul to Soul and people like that, all that whole new soul work started with her. And plus, she's got 4 or 5 Grammys in her pocket. I think that's worthy.
So then you said this is a different list than who you think is getting in.
Yeah. Who do I think is getting in? I think who will get in will be Mary J., Mariah, Cher, Frampton, and Oasis.
You think Oasis is going in this time, considering America didn't really get them?
Yeah, first of all, I don't know that Mary J. and Mariah would both get in. That's going to be tough. That's going to be multiple votes for a lot of people. Mary's been on the ballot before and not gotten in because I've pushed her on the ballot before and it has not happened. So I don't know if there's going to be more space for her than there was before, particularly with a Mariah on there. And Oasis, to me, I am fascinated to see, as we've noted, with a bigger UK voting body, they would have walked in, already. I don't know. I honestly don't know how they register for a big U.S. voting body. As we've said, do the guys in Journey know who Oasis is? Is that going to, I just don't, I have that one I'm dying to see. I'm most curious. I could see them walk in and I could see them flatline.
As always, Sean, great to talk to you, man. Thanks for paying attention to us and checking in. Much appreciated. Let's go to Mary in Cincinnati with an audio message.
Hey guys, it's Mary in Cincinnati here. I just wanted to make a couple of comments and have a quick question about the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame nominations. First of all, your conversation with Lou Gramm was great. I think he made the perfect elevator pitch on why Foreigner should go into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Also, Peter Frampton, long past due nomination in my opinion. Peter has done so much, and I think he's right. The highs and the lows both qualify as to why he should be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And if for some weird set of circumstances he doesn't get the vote, then maybe they could make a special award as the nicest guy in rock and roll. Gotta love Peter. Anyways, my question is, there are at least a few nominees who have said they would reject and not appear and not accept if inducted, and that includes Cher and Liam, and of course now Sinead is gone, so she couldn't be there. So my question is, how do you feel whether an artist can or would appear at the induction ceremony affects their vote? Knowing that they don't want it, knowing that couldn't see them live during a ceremony, do you think that makes a difference? And that's it. Thanks again for this great podcast, and I hope to talk to you soon.
So I don't know that there's a single sort of shorthand answer to that, Mary. Every voter makes the decisions that they make, right? There certainly is no policy that says that if somebody says they're going to show up, or somebody says, fuck you guys, I don't want to come anywhere near you, the nominations and the votes stand on their own as they stand. I certainly don't think that there was any contingent sense of, well, we'll vote for Oasis if Liam and Noah will show up and do a reunion for the ceremony. I think everybody understands the playing field a lot better than that. That said, are there some who would say, well, if Cher says she doesn't want to be a part of it, then I'm not going to vote for her? I can imagine that it gets into people's heads a little bit.
Didn't she say that last fall? So everybody on the nominating committee, in theory, would have already known that.
Certainly, absolutely. And it didn't prevent her from showing up on the ballot. And obviously we went through this with Dolly Parton.
Different vibe though with Dolly.
Different vibe, absolutely. But Rundgren, very adamant about wanting nothing to do with it. So I don't think that it has a big impact. And I think, as for whether if somebody is passed on or not, there's a lot of ways that plays out, right? I mean, not craven to say, oh, Sinead's chances go up because of this tragedy, but obviously her loss brought her to top of mind for a lot of discussion and a lot of sense of what it is that she meant to people. So, I wouldn't say that in any way that's a strike against them, because, she's not going to be able to buy a ticket at the for a table at the induction ceremony.
Right. Damn it. It is a fundraising event after all. So, Laura, thank you for joining us. Welcome. Laura's live.
Thanks for letting me join in today. So since you were just talking about Sinead, I guess I'll start with my thoughts about her. I said to some friends, I've said to several friends that if I were the ghost of Sinead O'Connor, I'd be pissed. Because, she told us the truth about something and the world didn't believe her. She lost pretty much everything because of it. I mean, did she continue to make music? Yes. Did a core following? Yes. But really she was robbed. It turns out she was right. And it's not like the whole world went on the let's apologize to Sinead tour once that happened. And,
just to be clear, what was she right about? Fighting the real enemy?
Yes, when she told us about what was going on in the Catholic Church, and we all just kind of went, yeah, you're unstable and we're not going to listen to you. And so, I was kind of guilty of thinking she's sort of crazy, whatever. This is disrespectful. This is rude, whatever. And I kind of rolled my eyes and that was the end of it. Right. But then when it all kind of came down, I had to say to myself, holy crap, the bald chick on Saturday Night Live was right. But it isn't like the whole world came and apologized. And then the minute she passes, it's the whole world, is like, oh, I was so behind her and she was right. And this is great, and I'm not one for consolation prizes and everyone gets a trophy. But I'm sorry, the Rock Hall voters kind of owe this to her for not being more supportive when it mattered. I think it's also a statement of supporting people who are maybe have mental illness or a little emotional and unstable, because those are the folks that are easily marginalized. And so many of those reside in the arts. so many people like that reside in the arts. And I don't know. I was lucky enough to see her on that very short tour, and I'll always be appreciative to April for letting me be her +1 to that. That was one of the most emotional shows I've ever been to, and I really felt so happy for her that she got that little bit of peace at the end there.
Yeah, I can't argue with any of that. I'm grateful that the documentary got made while she was still around, and that conversation at least started to happen. It wasn't entirely after she was gone that those questions got raised. The fact that at least she got to see people talk about that and grapple with that and address that while she was still here. Then, of course, losing her son and, whatever that it seems like the fallout from that tragedy really being, a final blow for her. But I can't disagree with anything that you say, and agree she was one of the most riveting live performers I've ever seen, and I do think there'll be a lot of that sentiment from voters. We'll see. As you said, I think her ghost would have every right to be pissed. I imagine her ghost's going to be pissed regardless, but fair enough on this one.
Yeah, Laura, we thank you. Great comments from you always, and
Thanks, guys. Keep up the great work. I'm loving every episode.
We appreciate you sticking with us. We've got
Lindsay and Hudson in Tulsa.
Hey guys, it's your Oklahomies, Lindsay and Hudson, checking in with our Rock Hall votes. I'm picking Cher, Foreigner, Peter Frampton, Ozzy, and Kool and the Gang.
And I'm voting for Foreigner, Peter Frampton, Ozzy, Lenny Kravitz, and Oasis.
That is the straight rock ticket.
We like that, right?
From Hudson right there. And that's still leaving Jane's on the bench.
I'm surprised how much love Oasis is getting today.
Yeah, well, plays to the music fans, but we'll see. That could be how it shakes out. Let me quick read an email from our friend Robin. So thrilled to hear you both again. Makes my Tuesdays and Fridays brighter. My Rock Hall picks: Kool and the Gang, So Worthy, and they killed as the Van Halen opener. Sinead, A Rebel with the Voice of a Banshee. Peter Frampton, A Tribe Called Quest. And I'm going with my Dark Lady Cher and Oasis for the Chaos. That's 1, 2, 3, 4. That is 6, Robin. I don't know if that's if that's fully going to work. My snub, as they said in Highlander, there can only be one. My boys from Minneapolis, The Replacements. Yeah, man, it's a tough fight. Man. That one hurts me too. We got to keep pushing. Something's got to happen for those boys. They keep talking about the movie getting made.
Documentary, right?
Well, there's talk of there's a biopic that was being kicked around too. Like, let's see a good comprehensive replacement story and push them back toward the front of the line. That would make me very, very happy. Evan notes in the chat that they are allowing 7 on the fan vote this year.
Oh, is that so?
Which is interesting. As far as I know, it's still only 5 on the actual ballots. But okay, if that is true, then we can give Robin her 6th and she'll be okay. Let me read a couple of notes from the chat. Yeah. Just while people are weighing in. Evan gave his votes: Ozzy, Frampton, Foreigner, Dave Matthews Band, Cher, Kravitz, and Mariah. First we've heard on Dave Matthews from anybody here. Mm-hmm. First we've heard on Mariah. Sunita wrote in the chat, I want people's thoughts on Mariah. Whether you like her or not, cannot deny the body of work. Number one's influence on legions of young singers. And a reminder, she writes all those songs.
People don't realize that. That's important.
Just need to put that out there. Again, doesn't mean the others. But if you're talking about a Hall of Fame that has voted in and said, we think Janet should be in, we think Whitney should be in, it is then hard to argue when we talk about who's going to, I think Mariah has a very strong shot to get through. Sean, who we talked to before, also put in here, Oasis reminds me a lot of Guns N' Roses. Small window of gigantic releases with a big impact. And I think that's the question of, is the impact visible enough to these voters, or was that, far away? So all of these are good questions. Also, somebody told me last night that for all the shit that Liam has been talking about the Hall of Fame, that he also said, and I didn't see this, that somebody asked, well, if you get in, would you go? And he was like, oh, of course I'd go. Like, there you go. You don't not show up. Like, you show up, and so we got a long way to go.
What else? Do we have email standing by, or you tell me?
Just for our general good feelings,
Yep.
An email from Kathy in Arkansas saying, so many comments on this latest episode. It would take too long, but can I just say how thrilled I am to have you both back in my life? It has been a desert without the joy y'all bring, says Kathy from Arkansas.
Thank you. Could you read that one again?
I'll send you that. Just hang on to that one.
Just read it again for everyone. I got to thank everyone who is showing up live to be a part of our virtual audience. That is something that you don't hear a lot on other podcasts. And thank you to the people who have emailed, who have voice messaged us, and who have liked us wherever it is that they're finding this podcast. That's super important to us. We really, really appreciate that. Coming up Monday, we mentioned that we've got Andy Green coming in. He's going to be talking about this big Pearl Jam information. And what else can we tell him before we get out of here?
Who knows what will happen between now and then? Music news keeps on coming.
Fair enough. So to everyone in the virtual chat, here in our virtual audience, and who are listening to us online days later, we thank you, and we will catch you next time on Sound Up.
Sound Up is hosted by Mark Goodman and Alan Light, produced by Roger Coletti, and distributed by Revolver Podcasts. Theme music by Smile from Tokyo. Get Sound Up on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Pandora Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. For more information, email us at connect@sounduppod.com. We'll see you next time right here on Sound Up with Mark Goodman and Alan Light.